My son brought his fiancée home. She cornered me in the kitchen, shoving me against the counter. "Listen, old man," she said. "Once we're married, you'll be dumped in the cheapest nursing home we can find. He's sick of caring for a useless burden like you." My son stood in the doorway, nodding. "It's true, Dad. We need your house more than you do." I just smiled and finished cooking. This morning, my phone showed 23 missed calls and increasingly desperate texts. Hey, everyone. Before we dive in, I have a quick favor to ask. If you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It's free, supports the channel, and ensures you never miss out on amazing videos. All right, let's get started. So I guess I'm finally doing this. Never thought I'd be posting on Reddit about my family drama, but here I am at 2 a.m., still shaking and wondering if what happened today was actually real. Some background. I'm 58, been a widower for 15 years now. My Eloise passed from cancer when our son Daniel was just 15, and I've been raising him alone ever since. And by raising, I mean giving him everything while getting pretty much nothing in return. But that's just being a parent, right? At least that's what I always told myself. I've always been the guy who avoids conflict, the one who picks up the slack when others drop the ball, the neighbor who never complains when your dog craps on his lawn for the billionth time, the dad who co-signs loans, the friend who never gets paid back, the father who gave up dating and a social life because Daniel needs me. The absolute definition of a pushover. My son Daniel, 30, brought home his fiancée Savannah, 28, last weekend to stay with us for a few days. They've been together 8 months and got engaged after 6. Red flag, I know now. But I said nothing because I never say anything. They live about 2 hours away, and this was only my 3rd time meeting her. First time was at some noisy bar where we barely talked. Second time was at Thanksgiving at my brother Henry's place, where she spent the whole time on TikTok and barely acknowledged my existence. But whatever. I was trying to be supportive because Daniel seemed happy. And that's what I do, right? Support everyone else while ignoring that sinking feeling in my gut. They arrived Friday evening. I made up the guest room, washed all the bedding, vacuumed, put out fresh towels, the works. Ordered pizza because they said they were too tired to go out. Paid for it myself, obviously. And Savannah made a face when she saw I ordered from the local place instead of Domino's. Like, sorry, my small town doesn't meet your standards. But I just smiled and apologized, because of course I did. Saturday morning, I made a big breakfast, pancakes, bacon, the works. Daniel slept in until 11, and Savannah picked at her food and asked if I had any avocados. I didn't. More disappointed sighs. Then, they spent the afternoon watching Netflix on my account while I cleaned the house and prepped dinner. This is where everything changed. I was in the kitchen making Daniel's favorite lasagna, which takes hours, B2W, and Savannah came in while Daniel was in the shower. I thought maybe she was offering to help. Stupid me. She walked right up to me, actually shoved me against the counter, and got in my face. I can still smell her coffee breath. She said, "Listen, old man, once we're married, you're getting dumped in the cheapest nursing home we can find. Daniel is sick of caring for a useless burden like you." I was so shocked, I couldn't even respond. Then I realized Daniel was standing in the doorway. I thought for sure he'd defend me. Instead, he just nodded and said, "It's true, Dad. We need your house more than you do." My house, the one I've owned for 30 years, the one I raised him in, the one I paid off despite working 2 jobs sometimes. The home where I have all my memories with Eloise. And I just smiled, nodded, turned back to my sauce, added some oregano, stirred it like nothing happened. They went back to watching their show. I kept cooking, served dinner, made small talk, asked about wedding plans. Apparently they're planning a destination wedding in Mexico that I'm not invited to. Nodded and smiled, washed the dishes while they went out to meet some of Daniel's old high school friends. But inside I was dying. Inside, something was happening that I've never experienced before. It wasn't just anger. It was like everything I've swallowed down for decades was suddenly bubbling up like lava. All those times Daniel borrowed money without paying me back. All those times he missed my birthday but expected elaborate gifts for his. The way he's talked down to me since he got that business degree that I paid for. How he's treated my home like a hotel and me like the staff. And now this. After they left for the bar, I sat at my kitchen table and something just broke. Or maybe something finally fixed itself. I don't know. But for the first time in maybe my entire adult life, I decided I wasn't going to take it. Not anymore. Not this time. I got on my iPad, the one Daniel keeps telling me is ancient even though it's only 3 years old, and started making calls. First to my brother Henry, who's been telling me for years that Daniel was using me. Then to my old friend from high school who happens to work at a law firm. Then to my bank. Then to my neighbor who's a real estate agent. See, what Daniel and his gold digger fiancée don't know is that my worthless house sits on land that's now worth a small fortune because of the new shopping center being built nearby. Developers have been leaving notes on my door for months. They think I'm just some clueless old boomer who doesn't know what he's got, just like my son thinks. I've never been one for revenge. Always thought karma would handle things. Always thought being the bigger person meant letting people walk all over you. But something changed in me tonight. Something hardened. They came home drunk around midnight, laughing. I heard them whispering about the old man and how they'd sell my furniture when they got the house. Heard Savannah saying they should check if my life insurance was paid up. I pretended to be asleep, but I wasn't. I was making plans. This morning, I made them breakfast again, smiled, told them I was so happy they found each other, hugged them both goodbye. Said I was looking forward to seeing them at the engagement party next month. They drove away thinking everything was fine, thinking I was still the same old doormat I've always been. They have no idea what's coming. It's now 2:14 a.m., and I'm typing this from the guest room of my brother's house. I've got meetings with lawyers tomorrow. I've got appointments with 3 different real estate agents the day after. I've got a locksmith coming to change my locks next. For the first time in forever, I'm not second-guessing myself. I'm not worrying about being nice. I'm not putting everyone else first. And it feels amazing. I'll update when there's more to tell. But let's just say that my son and his fiancée are about to learn an important lesson about respect and about underestimating useless old men. Marco P.S. Guess who's been paying Daniel's student loans all this time because he claimed he couldn't afford them? Guess who's about to stop those payments? Oh, and did I mention I'm still technically the guarantor on his apartment lease? Funny how that works. Update 1. Hey again, Reddit. First, I'm completely blown away by all the support on my last post. Never expected thousands of comments. Thanks for all the awards too. Still figuring out what those actually do, lol. It's been just over a week since I found out my son and his fiancée were planning to dump me in a nursing home and take my house. And what a week it's been. So, remember how I mentioned I was staying at my brother Henry's place? Well, I'm still here. Henry's been amazing through all of it. He's actually enjoying having me around. Says his house has never been so clean and the meals have never been so good. Old habits die hard, I guess, still taking care of everyone but myself. But that's not the important stuff. The important stuff is what I've been doing when I'm not stress cleaning my brother's baseboards at 3 a.m. I never told you guys this before, but back before Daniel was born, I worked at a law firm for almost 10 years. Nothing fancy, just helping with paperwork and research. But I learned a lot and I kept in touch with people. People who owe me favors. People who remember when I covered for them or helped them or just listened when they needed someone. And for the first time in my life, I'm calling in those favors. My first call was to my old boss, Leonard. He retired years ago, but his son runs the firm now. I explained my situation, and he got me an appointment the very next day. No waiting 2 weeks like a normal person would have to. Just walked right in. And I'm not going to lie, it felt pretty good. The lawyer, not going to name him for obvious reasons, looked over all my paperwork, the deed to my house, my will, my finances, everything. And then he smiled. He told me Daniel had actually been in to see him 3 months ago, asking about elder care options and a property transfer scenario. My own son was lawyer shopping behind my back. But because I'd worked with his father, this lawyer fed Daniel a bunch of BS and then called me immediately after. I never got that message. Want to guess why? Because Daniel set up my voicemail. And apparently, some messages just disappear. How convenient. That was just the first of many discoveries. While going through my bank statements, which I usually just glance at online, I found several transfers to Daniel's account over the past year that I never authorized. Small amounts, $200 here, $300 there, nothing I'd immediately notice, but adding up to over 7,000. And remember those student loans I mentioned I was paying? Turns out he graduated 3 years ago. The money I've been sending? Straight into his vacation fund. Found that out from his stupid public Instagram that he didn't think I knew about. There he is, in Cancun, Punana, Vegas, all with my student loan money. But Savannah? Oh, Savannah is something else entirely. My niece, Henry's daughter, is super good with all the social media stuff. She did some digging for me. Turns out Savannah has been married before. Twice. Both times to men over 50. Both marriages lasting less than 2 years. Both ending with her getting property in the divorce. She's like some kind of black widow, but instead of killing her husbands, she just takes their houses. And there's more. So much more. I found out they've been taking things from my house every time they visit. My late wife's jewelry, which I thought I'd just misplaced. My coin collection. Even my dad's old watches, all gone. Probably sold online. But enough about their sins. Let's talk about what I've been doing about it. First, I met with a real estate agent. My house is worth way more than I thought, like 3 times. What I expected, that new shopping center and the development around it has sent property values through the roof. But I'm not selling. Not exactly. Instead, I've transferred ownership to an irrevocable trust controlled by my brother. On paper, I don't own my house anymore. It belongs to the trust. I still have lifetime rights to live there, but if anything happens to me, it doesn't go to Daniel. It goes to my brother's kids, who, unlike my son, actually call to check on me and remember my birthday. Next, I went to my bank and completely changed my accounts. New account numbers, new online banking passwords, 2-factor authentication on everything, removed Daniel as my emergency contact and beneficiary, added Henry instead. Then I did the hardest part. I canceled all automatic payments to Daniel, his student loans, his car insurance, that I was apparently still paying. Even his cell phone, which was somehow still on my family plan, even though he's 30 years old. Oh, and I hired a private investigator. Nothing fancy, just a guy Henry knows who used to do background checks. He dug even deeper into Savannah's past and found some really interesting stuff about how she was fired from her last job for financial irregularities. Apparently, she had access to the company credit card and used it for personal expenses. Lots of them. I also found out Daniel got passed over for a promotion 3 times because of character concerns. His boss apparently caught him taking credit for other people's work and fudging his expense reports. Like father, like son, I guess. Except I would never. Meanwhile, I've been completely normal in my texts with him. When Daniel asked why his phone got shut off, I played dumb and said it must be a billing error. When he asked about the student loan payment, I said I was having some temporary financial difficulties, but would figure it out soon. They think I'm just a helpless old man who doesn't understand technology or finance. Their mistake. Yesterday was the real test, though. Daniel called and actually spent 45 minutes pretending to care about me. Asked how I was doing, if I was eating okay, if I needed anything. The whole time, I could practically hear him sweating through the phone. He finally got to the real reason for his call. He and Savannah are having a small cash flow problem and needed to borrow $3,000 for wedding deposits. I told him I'd have to dip into my savings but would find a way to help, because that's what fathers do. He seemed so relieved, thanked me profusely, even said I love you, Dad, for the first time in years. I agreed to wire the money this morning, but I didn't. Instead, I sent a single dollar with the memo. Here's all you deserve. That was 5 hours ago. My phone has been blowing up ever since. First confusion, then concern, then outright panic. 23 missed calls, 47 text messages. Everything from, did you make a mistake with the transfer, to, are you trying to ruin my life? I haven't responded to any of them. Not yet. Because there's one more thing you should know. I invited them to dinner at my house tomorrow night. Told them I had big news and wanted to discuss my future. They think I'm going to announce I'm moving to a retirement community or something. But I've invited some other people too. My brother Henry and his wife, my niece and her husband, my neighbor who's known Daniel since he was a baby. And the real surprise guests, Savannah's parents. Oh, I didn't mention that part, did I? Turns out Savannah told Daniel her parents were dead. They're very much alive, living about 2 hours away, and very interested to hear about their daughter's engagement, since she's apparently still legally married to husband number 2. I've set up my dining room with my best dishes, cooking my famous pot roast, bought a nice bottle of whiskey to celebrate, and installed a small camera in the bookshelf to capture every moment. For the first time in my life, I'm not afraid of confrontation. I'm looking forward to it. I've spent years being the nice guy, the pushover, the human ATM, and emotional punching bag. But tomorrow night, they're all going to meet the person I've become, the person who was always inside me but was too afraid to come out, the wolf they never saw coming. I'll update after the dinner. Wish me luck, Reddit, though honestly, I don't think I'll need it. For once in my life, I'm holding all the cards, and I can't wait to play them. Marco finally update. Well, Reddit, it happened. The dinner happened, and I'm still processing everything. Sorry for taking a few days to update. I needed to let the dust settle a bit before I could even type this all out. Plus, my brother's Wi-Fi has been acting up. Typical Henry. Pays for the premium package, but uses the router they gave him in 2015. LOL. So where to even begin? I spent all day preparing for this dinner, cleaning my house top to bottom, even though I hadn't stayed there all week. Old habits, I guess. Made my famous pot roast with those little potatoes and carrots that Daniel used to love as a kid. Set the table with the good dishes, you know, the ones that stay in the cabinet except for Christmas and Easter. Even put out fresh flowers and candles. If I was going to burn their world down, I wanted it to at least look nice. Henry and his wife Kate arrived first around 6. They helped me finish setting up while I kept obsessively checking my phone. No new messages from Daniel since his last angry text about the car being repossessed. Just silence, which honestly made me more nervous than the flood of texts from before. My niece Riley and her husband showed up next, followed by my neighbor Mrs. Peterson, who's known Daniel since he was in diapers. She brought her homemade apple pie and asked me 3 times if I was really sure about all this. I wasn't, not completely, but I nodded anyway. The real wild cards were Savannah's parents. I wasn't sure they'd actually show up, but right at 6:45 they knocked on my door, Mr. and Mrs. Grant. They looked normal, nice even. Nothing like what I expected based on Savannah's stories about her abusive childhood and family trauma. Mrs. Grant hugged me immediately, thanked me for reaching out, showed me pictures of their other daughters and grandkid. They'd been trying to contact Savannah for over a year, ever since she ghosted them after borrowing $10,000 for what she claimed was a medical emergency. And then the doorbell rang again. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought everyone could hear it. I smoothed down my shirt, the new one I bought specifically for this occasion, took a deep breath and opened the door. There they stood, Daniel looking confused, Savannah looking annoyed, both of them freezing when they saw the cars in the driveway. Daniel asked what was going on. I just smiled and welcomed them in, said I had a surprise. Savannah immediately started making excuses about needing to leave, suddenly remembered some work emergency. On a Saturday night? Sure. But Daniel, curious as always, stepped inside and came face to face with Savannah's dead parents. I wish I could describe the look on her face. It was like watching someone's soul leave their body in real time. All the color drained from her cheeks. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Mrs. Grant started crying, reached out for her daughter, called her Vanna. Apparently that's her real name, not Savannah. Asked where she'd been, why she'd disappeared. Savannah looked like she might faint or run. Instead, she did what manipulators always do. She attacked. Started screaming that her parents had no right to be there, that I had no right to contact them, that this was all some sick game. But it's hard to play the victim when you're surrounded by evidence of your lies. I invited everyone to sit down at the dining table. Savannah refused, but Daniel, looking more confused by the second, slowly took a seat. I could see him glancing nervously at the pot roast of all things, like somehow this elaborate meal was the most threatening part of the evening. And then I laid it all out. The kitchen confrontation, the nursing home threats, the stealing, the lies about student loans, the taking of my wife's jewelry, the secret marriages, all of it. I didn't yell, didn't cry, just stated facts in the same calm voice I'd used to read a grocery list. With each new revelation, Daniel seemed to shrink smaller and smaller in his chair. Mrs. Peterson, sweet old lady that she is, gasped so loudly at one point I thought she might need her inhaler. Henry kept his hand on my shoulder the whole time like he was afraid I might collapse if he let go. When I finished, the silence was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Even the ice maker in my fridge seemed afraid to make a sound. Daniel spoke first, started with denial, said I misunderstood the kitchen conversation, then moved to excuses, Savannah's idea, not his, then to blame, if I hadn't been so controlling, if I'd given him more freedom, if I'd helped him more financially. Finally landing on anger. How dare I embarrass him like this, involve all these people. But Savannah went nuclear, called me every name in the book, said Daniel had warned her I was mentally unstable, claimed I was making everything up because I was jealous of their happiness, said she'd sue me for defamation. That's when Mr. Grant quietly asked about her current husband, Steve. The room went silent again. Daniel's head whipped toward Savannah so fast I thought he might get whiplash. Husband, current husband. Turns out Savannah never actually divorced husband number 2. Just moved on. Started over. Found Daniel. Mr. Grant had the paperwork to prove it. I've never seen someone's face cycle through so many emotions in 30 seconds. Daniel went from confusion to disbelief to anger to complete despair right before my eyes. His whole body seemed to deflate like someone had unplugged him from whatever was keeping him upright. Savannah tried to explain, but there's really no good explanation for being currently married while planning a wedding to someone else. She grabbed her purse, called us all horrible people, and stormed out, leaving Daniel sitting there alone at the table, full of people who'd watched him grow up. What happened next surprised even me. Daniel started to cry. Not just a few tears, but full-on sobbing. The kind I hadn't seen since he was 10 and broke his arm falling out of the treehouse. He kept saying he was sorry, that he'd messed up, that he didn't know what had happened to him. Part of me wanted to comfort him. That's what dads do, right? But the other part, the new part of me that had grown a spine, that part stayed seated, watching, waiting. His apologies turned to promises. He'd pay me back, he'd make it right, he'd be a better son. Then to bargaining. Could I please help him? Could I talk to his landlord? Could I help him get his car back? And for the first time in my life, I said no. No, I wouldn't bail him out. No, I wouldn't solve his problems. No, I wouldn't pretend this never happened. The dinner ended shortly after. Mrs. Peterson took Daniel home with her. She always had a soft spot for him. Savannah's parents left to try and find their daughter. Henry and Kate helped me clean up in silence. That was 5 days ago. Since then, my phone has barely stopped buzzing. Daniel texts constantly, apologizing, begging, sometimes angry, sometimes desperate. Savannah apparently left town, back to husband number 2, according to her parents. Daniel lost his job. Turns out they were already on thin ice because of some accounting irregularities that I suspect involve Savannah. His landlord is evicting him because of missed payments. His entire life is collapsing, and for the first time I'm not rushing in to fix it. Instead, I'm fixing my life. I moved back into my house yesterday, changed all the locks, installed a security system, spent a whole day just sitting in my garden, drinking coffee, and planning what flowers to plant this spring. Henry thinks I should cut Daniel off completely. Riley thinks I should give him one more chance, but with strict boundaries. Mrs. Peterson calls daily to advocate for that poor boy who's just lost his way. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do about Daniel. Part of me still loves him. He's my son, after all. The little boy who used to fall asleep on my chest watching Saturday morning cartoons. But he's also the man who stood in my kitchen and agreed I should be thrown away like garbage. People keep asking if I feel better now, if revenge was sweet, if I'm happy with how things turned out. The truth is, I don't know. I don't feel happy, exactly. But I don't feel like a doormat anymore either. I feel like myself. Maybe for the first time in decades. Yesterday, I caught my reflection in the mirror and didn't immediately look away like I usually do. I actually stopped and looked at myself. Gray hair, wrinkles around my eyes, the same face I've always had, but somehow different. This morning, Daniel showed up on my doorstep, unshaven, wearing the same clothes as the dinner, eyes red from crying or drinking or both. He didn't ask for money this time, just asked if we could talk. I haven't let him in yet. He's sitting on the porch swing now while I type this, waiting. And for once in my life, I'm making someone else wait for me. Not sure what I'll say when I finally open that door. Not sure what comes next for either of us. But I know one thing for certain. Whatever happens, I'll never be anyone's doormat again. Marco liked today's story? A super thanks helps me keep bringing you the best daily content. Your support means I can keep doing what I love. Thanks for being awesome.